Hello everyone and welcome to another TGN World of Warcraft guide with Rurikon. So today we're going to be going over warrior tanking in the Throne of the Tides. So like I've said in my previous warrior tanking video, I'm going to be making a series of videos that will basically represent each of the heroic instances in Cataclysm with my warrior tank. And this one is, as usual, a completely random group for the Throne of the Tides with my warrior tank. So this is the usual thing that I do. I will mark 2 people or more people with CC marks, and I will mark them and then tell them that the marks on your head are your CC marks, because it's a lot easier for people to associate than me saying, oh, your circle, your diamond, your nipple, your this, your that. No, it's a lot easier. You just put the marks on their heads and tell them these are your CC marks, okay? It's really hard for them to mess it up after that. In this particular instance, I'm going to ask the healer to CC as well, because I really like to have those 2 spirit menders controlled, because they're quite basically a pain in the ass if they're not controlled. So those 2 are CC'd. The CCers pulled. They even pulled before I asked for it, but that's okay. So those 2 are CC'd, and in the meantime I mark 1 skull so that people will just take out one of the melee ads. Pretty simple stuff. You wanna pull them a bit further away from the CC so that people can actually use all their spells, all their AoEs, living bombs, all that crazy stuff, so that you don't have the problem of them breaking your CC. Now once that is done, you want to make sure to pick off one of the other 2 and make sure that people identify it and then try to pull it back. Usually I might mark a skull unless I see that they can target my target without marking a skull. Now that circle should have been re-hexed, I believe. Yeah, the circle is the hex. And it took them a while, which allowed 1 heal to get in. And yeah, sure, 1 heal is fine, but you really want to try and keep control of your CC. Make sure that if you're one of the CCers, make sure that if it breaks, you're ready to do it again, because it is highly probable with the current player mentality to still have people break CC, because there's still a lot of fresh people, just like fresh out of Wrath of the Lich King, and they'll just like, CC? What the hell are you talking about? But yeah, I personally like to use CC. It makes it a whole lot easier. Now, on this particular mob, the only thing you really have to know is to dodge the green goo. It's just really simple. I mean, you see that green goo? Dodge it. That's about it for this particular mob. Keep aggro. Your DPS should have no real problems handling it, and just try to leave them some room to attack from behind, because as you know, melee DPS loves to have anal sex with whatever mobs they're fighting, so you always have to leave a small room behind them and not just dodging the poison for yourself and taking a crap on your melee. You want to leave some room for them. It's always nice so that everyone... It's nice when you appreciate everyone's role and not just your own, you know? It's kind of like almost a respect thing, and if you do this, the DPSers will respect you more for it. So don't just be like, I'm the tank, you guys have to do whatever I want. No, I mean, if you give players a little respect, like, okay, I'm actually giving you this space for you to DPS. I don't want you DPSing from the sides or whatever. I want you to use your best spells while we're doing this trash so that we get through it faster. And you will get a more positive response from players. Like I usually tell in my guides, I mean, 30% to 40% of successful pugging is all about keeping a positive attitude towards your group and keeping the group morale in a pretty good shape. So by doing this, you're respecting DPS. They'll thank you for it. They will love you. They will want to have your babies, but you will probably not want that. Now for this pack, when you actually engage in here, this starts a gauntlet, so you'll have to make sure to watch out for the murlocs that are going to be coming forward. As you see now, those deep murloc drudges, they do come forward, and you have to make sure that you grab them, because otherwise they will instantly grab aggro on your healer, and they will be sure to nuke him down, and the healer will hate you for all times. Now, since this is a gauntlet, sometimes you will be forced to go back and forth between mobs. I mean, if you were a paladin in this situation, it becomes a whole lot easier, because you see the dredges and you just go up to them and Hammer of Righteous. But as a warrior, you can't actually do that, because Thunderclap is most likely part of your main rotation, and it's not always going to be available when you need it most, which is why you should also keep a really close button for your AoE taunt, just in case those ads get loose. I mean, it just really helps. Now, I'm trying to keep my Thunderclap, as you can see, for when the drudges come, but it's still a pain in the ass. And also, your Shockwave is also pretty useful here, if you can target it correctly. It takes a bit of practice if you don't have practice with warrior tanking, but that's the way it is. You really have to have practice on your shockwaves, otherwise they're pretty much useless. Now in here I'm trying to also time the shockwaves according to when the spirit menders are healing, which is a pain in the ass. You can actually ask them to CC one here, but I didn't. But since they were having troubles DPSing one down, I actually went ahead and feared it. Which I know it's probably not the best thing to do, specifically because I don't have the glyph of fear that allows stuff to stand still in the same place instead of running away. But to be completely honest, I don't really care. Sometimes you just gotta take a chance, and I took a chance there, interrupted it with my intimidating shout because I had nothing else. I mean, shield bash was on cooldown, my stuns were on cooldown. The other thing I could do would be heroic leap away from her and then charge her, but I'm pretty sure she would be done casting by then, so I risked the fear. And sometimes you gotta take a chance. It's like everything in life. Now for this next pack, you actually have to look at which mobs you'll get, because sometimes you'll get 2 Spirit Menders, sometimes you get 2 Tempest Witches. It really depends. So I got 1 Tempest Witch and 1 Spirit Mender, so I just sheep the Spirit Mender and AoE tank the rest. If you don't have the gear for this, you should ask either your healer or your druid to root one, hex one, do something more than what I did, which is just pull all 4 and nuke them down. But it is doable as long as you don't have the Spirit Mender healing, which I actually think happens here at some point, because the sheep breaks loose, which again enhances what I'm telling people when I mean get hold of your CC. And here I'm actually noticing now that the healer also CC'd something, even though I didn't ask for it. Yeah, sure, it's okay. I mean, it's always good if you are a good CC'er and you proactively CC. It's always good for the tank. I'm pretty sure that he will never mind, unless he's trying to do some kind of a speed run or something like that. Then I don't know. But for me, I personally have no problems if you decide that you want to CC something, even though I didn't ask for it. As long as you don't CC it in a stupid place and you know what you're doing, it's fine by me. And here the CC breaks and I'm forced to charge it and catch it before it kills somebody in the party. So yeah, this is again a pretty simple pull. The hardest trash in this instance is actually after the second boss. Now you want to make sure that you wait for this specific patrol before you move on, because this patrol will usually catch you when you're engaging the second pack here, which is the pack that's in front of us. Actually, at the moment to my left, I believe, there's a pack that should have like 2 Spirit Menders and whatever. And usually if you engage that pack before engaging this patrol, you will be surprised by this patrol. And it's like, surprise, butt sex! Yeah, so you don't want that. So make sure to wait for this one. And I can guarantee you, he will come, and he will, at least 99% of the times, he will come from the right side. So you can actually predict which side he's going to be coming from. So yeah, basically take out this patrol before moving on. And then make sure to also take out the Murlocs, because you're going to be needing to make AoE damage on them, and you don't want to be dealing with that while you're pulling the other pack. So as you can see, getting into the Trogs, Murlocs there, thunderclapping, shockwaving, they're dead, pretty easy stuff. And again, here we have 2 Spirit Menders in this pack. There's usually, most of the times, I've always seen 2 Spirit Menders here, and those are the ones you make sure that you want to keep CC'd. And make sure you get an appropriate CC as well, because roots will not cut it for those guys. They can't be stopped by rooting, because they will just keep healing themselves. And here I'm actually noticing that for some reason, Circle is not being hexed. So I'm like, okay, if you're not going to hex it, I gave you enough time to hex it. You're not going to be doing that. In that case, we're going to be nuking it, and I'm going to be interrupting the crap out of it to make sure that we get it down. Also, something that I'm not doing and that you should take example from is actually popping cooldowns. Actually, I did. I just popped last stand there. I was just waiting for a bit. But basically, as you noticed there, my life went down quite a bit. And you gotta be ready for this. And as a tank, you gotta be ready to pop your cooldowns. Now there, apparently, the Death Knight spread his disease onto the sheep mob, which is a royal pain in the ass. So again, I'm using Intimidating Shout, which is, as I've said before, a high-risk maneuver. You can only really ever use it as a last resort kind of thing. But basically I just had to use it because the damage was just being too much, as you can see now, again with tons and tons of damage. And the healer was keeping everything healed, and I just had to pull the Death Knight away from that stuff to make sure that he stopped breaking that sheep. I know that the Death Knight should know better than that, but to be honest, as a tank, you're expected to lead the group, and you're expected to make the right decisions for them, and that sometimes might include backing off, dragging players along to... I mean, it's almost like you can almost call it anti-retarded behavior, which is basically what I did there, because the Death Knight was spreading diseases on top of the CC'd mob, and I think he actually did it twice, not exactly sure. And what I did was basically, okay, I'm going to fear these away, and then I'm going to pick them up somewhere else. And yeah, even though that's not really the best solution, ideally you could just move it away. But I chose to use fear instead because I also interrupted the Spirit Mender. But again, I took a big chance there because, I mean, in this particular case, it isn't actually such a big chance because there were no other packs that they could have aggroed. So yeah, but be really, really careful. I'm just trying to emphasize that you got to be really careful when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. When you're dealing with fears in your polls. It's really, really dangerous. So here I'm just giving them the basic strategy that we're going to be using for this boss. So basically I want the guys to sheep the ad that comes from the right side and to root the big ad that comes from the back. So what happens in this boss is basically she has an ability called Shock Blast, which you gotta interrupt with your Shield Bash. If there's other melee DPSers on the party, they can also help with that. In fact, almost anyone in this party can interrupt it. We have a mage that can interrupt it. We have a druid that can interrupt it with that huge cone of silence. We have a death knight that can interrupt it with mind freeze, and you have a warrior that can interrupt it with shield bash, and you even have a shaman healer that can interrupt it with wind shear. So really, if any shock blast gets through, that's just ridiculous. But anyways, the shock blast is the ability you want to be interrupting. Apart from that, you also want to make sure to stay the hell away out of those blue stuffs on the floor, blue swirlies, which are basically geysers. And in this phase is the ad phase, and like I said, we're going to be nuking down the left ad. You're going to be rooting the big ad, which he's not doing. So basically I'm just like, okay, I gave you enough time, you're not doing it, I'm taking the ad as my own. Excuse me, thank you very much. And I grab aggro, I disarm the ad immediately because between the lightnings that the witches make and the melee damage that this guy does is just way too much. Now during this phase you also have to complicate things, these little whirlwinds that you see going around, and what you gotta do is you gotta make sure that you dodge them. And these whirlwinds are actually pretty tricky to spot because of the huge whirlwind that the boss is enveloped in. Sometimes the whirlwinds will come from there and you will barely even see them. Blizzard is actually going to be nerfing the damage on these whirlwinds, which I find ridiculous. What they should do instead is improve the visibility to make sure that no player has any excuse to not watch those freaking whirlwinds. So that's basically phase 2 of this boss. She will summon 2 caster ads, of which you will want to CC one, kill the other, and she will also summon a big melee ad. That melee ad will either have to be tanked or CC'd in some form. The best way to do it is actually to CC it, which is why I asked for a root, but they didn't give it to me. The other way to do it is just tank it, which is what I ended up doing, and in here I'm actually just getting ready to do it. And the problem here that you notice me charging on the boss is because when the boss goes into this whirlwind form, she has a huge hitbox. And because of the macros that I use, sometimes I end up charging her, which is a real pain in the ass. But yeah, and right now I'm trying to pull the Tempest Witch on top of that silencing cone. And here I had a huge lag spike. If you look at my lag thingy indicator there at the bottom of the screen roughly in the middle, you'll notice that it's yellow, and somewhere during this fight it will become red. So again, we are at the second phase of the boss, and we're going to be nuking down these ads, which is basically everything you have to do during the second phase. Nuke down ads and dodge the whirlwinds, and after that get back on the boss. Make sure to interrupt that shock blast. Get away when she does her poison, or is the poison just in single AoE? No, never mind about the poison. The poison you actually have to get dispelled. It's a pain in the ass, but that's the way it works. Get away from the geyser, and that's about it. If you want to do the achievement for this boss, there's an achievement where you have to kill one ad with the geyser. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory. You will basically have to CC one of the ads, wait for the boss to activate, and then kite the ad on top of one of the geysers. Or better yet, have everyone stand on top of you, so that the geyser will spawn where you're standing. And then just stun the ad in some form. And yeah, let it take the geyser to the face. And here I'm actually checking out my ping, and I'm going to be making a slight adjustment here, which basically involved reducing the upload speed, because while I was doing this I was actually uploading more videos to TGN. So yeah, yeah, I'm doing videos, I'm uploading, I'm doing everything at the same time. So this particular boss, the only really thing that you gotta look out for is Dark Fissure, and move away from it. It's pretty simple. Whenever he does Dark Fissure, you just strafe a bit to the side or move back. What I usually do is turn about 90 degrees to my right and then strafe, because in case he hits me, he will not hit me in the back. I will still be affected by parry, dodge, and all that good stuff. But to be honest, at this point in the game, you can actually just take a Dark Fissure to the face and it doesn't even make any difference. There was actually a point where I really admired this boss's design, because Blizzard had the design philosophy of, at least at the start of this expansion, whenever I got hit by Dark Fissure, it's like, you're dead! I'm sorry. What, you couldn't dodge Dark Fissure? Dead! That simple. And I have to say, I enjoyed that design philosophy. It was really fun, because I would get like really, oh my god, I gotta dodge it, I gotta dodge it. If I don't dodge it, I'm fucking dead. But now, I don't really care. It's like, yeah, I'll dodge it just for fun. I mean, I'll dodge that blow just for fun, as practice, whatever you want to call it. As in, hey, let's practice dodging this thing just for the hell of it. Because to be honest, I can just stand in it, and I can freaking tank the boss in it, and people will still be able to heal me. It's ridiculous. I once seen a Fury Warrior stand on top of a Dark Fissure while the boss was enraged like he is now, and it gave him like 30,000 damage. Fury Warrior. And I'm like, really? Come on. Yeah, so this boss has gotten incredibly easy. The only thing that you should notice as a tank is notice that I'm kiting the boss close to the wall, because these Dark Fissures will keep increasing and increasing and increasing, and the best way to do it is actually kite it close to a wall and just keep moving in a circle. That way everyone should always have room in the middle until he eventually dies. If your group does not have enough DPS, don't be afraid to move down a corridor or to move back to the first boss's room. It's just fine. Don't worry about it. Like right now, if I would get cornered in some way that I would see, okay, we can't actually kill him before this room is flooded, I could go either here or the opposite direction and basically just take the boss there, and there's a whole bunch of room for you to use. Don't be afraid to use it if you're having problems. Now, after this boss, you want to take the teleport, because it's actually the fastest way to get to the next set of trash. And take the portal, turn to your left, head straight forward. You're back at the start of the instance, and your next boss is going to be to the right after you get here. If you remember, at the start of the instance, you should have seen two huge tentacles in this zone. Well, now they're gone, and instead you have what I would like to call some of the really most challenging trash in Cataclysm. Yeah, it is, but they're gonna nerf it, so And yeah, they have already said we're going to be nerfing the Gill Goblins poison spears or whatever. Even though right now they are a bit overkill, I have to admit, sometimes I'm just getting close to them and they almost like one-shot me, which is a pain in the ass. So usually as a paladin, what I actually do is I will go ahead and pre-use cooldowns to make sure that I survive the approaching of the ads. As a warrior, you don't really need to pre-use them because you can just charge in, but you will still need to use them. As you see right there, I do use shield wall, and I am considering using last stand if necessary, but in this particular case it wasn't necessary. If you notice, what I did was I charged in, thunderclapped, and then I moved to the right. You can actually rewind and watch this again. I charged in, thunderclapped, moved slightly to the right, turned the camera to face them all because they're all like in this single file line. And basically if you charge in, thunderclap, move to your right, and then shockwave, you will quite basically get all of them in your shockwave stunned. So that will give you solid threat and a whole ton of damage reduction because they won't be hitting you for a bit while they're stunned. If you have a warlock, he can help you using Shadow Fury, and there's a whole lot of other ways that it can be done. There's also something really funny that you should try. If you ever come here with a priest, any kind of priest, you should ask him to mind control one of them. It's just so funny. It's because it's like you will have all of the Gill Goblins standing there, and then the priest will mind control one, and all of a sudden all the others will turn to him and like, dude, what the fuck? And snap, just kill the guy. It's just hilarious. Trust me. If you ever get a priest in this instance, just try it out. I guarantee you guys will laugh your asses off. Now, for this particular mob here, the only real ability you got to be careful is when he does this pound thingy, because he throws everybody up in the air, then he starts pounding on the floor, and you got to make sure that you do not stand in that pound, because if you do, you'll die. And I am not kidding. I mean, these guys hit harder than the second boss upstairs. I am dead serious. These guys will nuke your ass in the pound like that. Just like that. You'll be going, yay, I'm standing in a pound. Dead. So yeah, be really careful with the pound. Make sure that you move away from the pound, and that's that. Now, regarding the next pack, it actually only has 4 goblins, so it's really not as much dangerous as the other ones, but still, you notice that I'm not advancing, and the reason I'm not advancing is because I want to make sure that this healer moves forward. Because if I charge in and the healer doesn't have range to pick me up, I'm dead. So if you're a healer here, if you want to make your tank more comfortable, just make sure to be slightly ahead of him and ready to heal him as soon as he gets to the goblins. Now, if you notice, what I did there was a heroic leap to get aggro on top of everything, and then I slightly moved back and shockwave, stunned everything. And right here I actually got really low on health because I believe the healer was too busy running for his life, and he wasn't really paying attention to my health, so I went ahead and popped last stand, enrage regeneration, and just grab a nice little heal from my own skills. And again, this mob is basically the same deal as the other one. If you get thrown up in the air, you can wave your wands like just don't care. No, really, if you get thrown up in the air, make sure that when you fall down, you get the hell away from the AoE, from the ground pound, whatever, pounding something something. Don't die from that, because it's annoying like hell. And here I actually had a problem, which is I had this mage who said, hey, let's do Ring of Frost on the next pack, and that's usually not what I do. So what he did just caused me a whole bunch of mess up. So what I usually do here is I go behind this post and I'll tell everyone, get behind here. Everyone, come here. And I start jumping so that they see I'm here. Come here. Let's go. Sometime today. Anytime today would be awesome. Thank you very much. Now, as most experienced tanks will see by now, or at least tanks that have any idea of tanking, what I'm trying to do is a line of sight pull. And so I'm actually saying, okay, let's actually use the mage's Ring of Frost. And I'm telling him, cast it here where I'm standing, and look at what he does. He's going to be there and he's going to cast it, boom, right on top of him. And I'm like, oh, no, he didn't. That's just so bad. And I'm like, no! Because if he actually casted it there, the mobs would be close to us. and it would be really useful. But the place where you casted it, basically, I think it actually killed me, or it killed someone, because I couldn't pick them up properly, and it was just a pain in the ass. The idea usually is that if you don't do any of this mage mumbo jumbo, what you want to do is you want to have everyone behind the pillar, like I said, and then you will pull either by using your thrown weapon, your shotgun, or your heroic throw, something like that, and then you hide behind the post again, so that they will be forced to come to you, which is a whole lot better than you going to them. And in that case, it will help you basically get AoE threat a whole lot easier. You'll probably notice that I'm scratching my nose a lot. It's because I've been working with my dad today, and basically I'm allergic to all kinds of dust, and I was working for a long period of time close to sawdust, and now my nose is itching as all hell. I'm really sorry if that grosses you out or something, but yeah, that's what I had to do. So right now you actually have the pull where you have the double two big guys that are a pain in the ass, and in this one, if you stay in the AoE, because they'll both be doing it at the same time, you will die even faster than when it was only one of them. So yeah, you want to make sure that you, well, basically this is just tank and spank. There is no other way to describe it. Tank and spank and get out of the AoE when you fall down. Because there, as far as I know, there's no actual way to CC these guys, so yeah, you just gotta tank it, take it like a man, maybe pop a cooldown if it's required. A little nifty trick that you can also do if you're a warrior is when you're falling down, you can avoid fall damage by heroic leap mid-air into somewhere on the ground. In fact, you can actually use that trick to fall from anywhere in the game. Like, let's say you jump off a cliff. You precast your heroic leap so that you get the targeting reticule, and click on the ground when you're close enough, and if you do it within the right timing and you don't have lag, you will survive any kind of fall. So yeah, so I use it here sometimes to help me evade that nasty AoE. And in here, I don't know if you noticed or not, but my healer died, and he onked and is back to heal me again. So yeah, like I said, these guys hit really, 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 really hard. Now I know that you'll probably be looking at my weapon and saying, "Oh my God, is that Cookie's tenderizer?" Yes, it is. It's the best mace I've been able to pick up for my warrior this far. Do not criticize me. I'm a dwarf. I love maces because they give me 3 raw expertise. So yeah, I will use this mace instead of using the sword that looks like a cock from Raj. Yeah, that one. Yes, that one that you're thinking about right now. That sword is so freaking ugly, I'd rather use a fucking rolling pin. That's the way things are. Now, right back onto this boss. This boss actually has 2 phases. The first phase, you will make a whole bunch of spells. One of them will be an AoE spikes thing from the ground. You want to make sure not to stand in that. The other one, it's a frontal breath attack. You really can't do anything to avoid it, except if you have a paladin, he can use resistance aura. If you have a shaman, he can use his resistance totem. I actually didn't ask for it because I didn't remember, but all kinds of resistances are good. Then you will also make a lava bolt. And that lava bolt is actually interruptible, and if it's not interrupted, it hits for about usually 50% of your average pug, 50% of their life, and a huge knockback. So if that's the healer and he's making some really, I don't know, desperation heal, you're screwed because somebody's gonna die. So it's always a good idea to interrupt those lava bolts. With that, whatever you can do to help your healer is always nice. And I will speak about the next abilities when we go into the next phase. Now here I am pulling and turning the boss's back onto the melee, and as you can see, that's the frontal breath. You want to make sure not to point that at your raid, and there I did interrupt the lava bolt, but unfortunately I don't think my shield bash cooldown is enough to interrupt on every single time. As you can see there, still on cooldown, completely unable to interrupt, and that Death Knight is just so dead that even his brain is not functioning right, so he can't interrupt it. So yeah, again, interrupting the lava bolt there, and that are those things right there that you're looking at are the AoE spikes that I mentioned. And as you can see there again, my cooldown went off just at the exact second that I wasn't able to interrupt anymore, which is a pain in the ass. And now I'm telling the Death Knight, help interrupt please. If your brain is working, you will interrupt, but I don't think he got the idea. So in here I'm actually forced to use my last stand and enrage regeneration because I'm taking a buttload of damage and I want to make sure not to die. And here the druid actually channeling the well, not channeling, casting the Cone of Silence that should interrupt lava bolts, but it doesn't, and I actually interrupted that one as well. As you can see, my shield bash there on cooldown. And now we're on to the second phase of the fight. Now this is one of those mind controlling thingies, and obviously he will mind control random group members. So that's one of the abilities he does. If he mind controls a member, he will either have to use one cooldown like Ice Block, or you will have to nuke your random pug member down to 50%, and make sure that make sure that you nuke it down to 50%, because then the boss will leave your raid member alone. The other thing he does is this channeled mind flay thingy. This can actually be line of sighted, as in you can move behind the pillars and you won't take damage. The other thing he does is the absorb magic shield. When he does that as a warrior, you can just use shield slam and it will break his shield. And if you do not break the absorb magic shield, any magic damage going on to the boss will basically heal him. So yeah, I know that's a pain in the ass. You have to time your shield slams correctly to make sure that you dispel that shield. If you don't want to time your shield slams correctly and you have a mage, the mage can spell steal it and the shaman can purge it, and those are the only classes that I know of that can deal with that shield thingy. Maybe priests can mass dispel it, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. Now for this next set of ads is also quite nasty. What happens is you will have one big ad usually and two big ads at the end, and a lot of small ads, and those small ads give you a stacking debuff that takes for a ton of damage. I believe it's a curse, so basically shamans can dispel it. So you want to make sure that your healers dispel the debuff, and ask your mages to spell steal the swell. If you have a mage, you should really ask him to spell steal the swell spell. Why? Because when these tainted sentries over here, which are what I was referring to as the big ads, if when they're about to die, they will swell up in size and start casting down this nasty AoE. And if the mage spell steals that, it's really useful for your group, because the mage will also be doing that nasty AoE, but it will kill all those small and stable corruptions instead, as you will see here. You see? The boss was swelling, now the mage spell stole it, and now you see the AoE that's coming out of the mage. That's actually beneficial to us, and it's making a ton of damage. Like you see those unstable corruptions spawning, one tick of that, boom, every unstable corruption dead. So if you actually have a mage, make sure that he spell steals this. It's really useful for your group. If you don't have a mage, you can use your shield slam to break it, and if you're not a warrior, a shaman can also purge it. Apart from that, maybe a priest can mass dispel it, but apart from that, I don't really know what else you can do. If you're a paladin, I would advise using your divine guardian. Not Guardian of the Ancient Kings, the Divine Guardian thingy, that the raid wall that reduces damage by 20% on everyone, whatever. But you might want to save that for the last two. Also, another important thing here is you don't want your party staying too long close to that waters, which is why I'm moving forward so fast. I'm trying to force them into keeping up with me so that they don't stand close to that water for long, because that water is nasty, it's black, and it's like all virulent and poisonous. No, actually, it's just because the small ants spawn from that water, and if you're close enough, they will aggro onto you, and they will keep spawning and aggroing and spawning and aggroing and spawning and aggroing. So, if you're making this instance, when you get to this part, get the hell away from the water. Please, your tank will thank you. This brought to you by TGN.TV. Yeah. So, once again here, the mage, I'm not sure if he spell stole it or if I just used my shield slam, because I'm just using shield slam in my normal rotation. So if he didn't spell steal it fast enough, I did it for him. So again, you want to make sure no unstable corruptions pass through, because they make a nasty debuff that makes a ton of damage. Or at least it used to make a ton of damage. It seems to have been somewhat nerfed. I mean, I remember 11 stacks being damn near unhealable, and I just had 8 stacks now and was taking 2k ticks. I don't know, probably nerfed as well. I mean, why is so much stuff getting nerfed? These dungeons are not hard at all. I know some people say, oh, but it's hard when you're in a pug. I'm in a pug. It's not hard. So no, it's not. In fact, people should really look to this as a challenge. And I know that I've even seen in some of the content, some people say, oh, you sound like a broken record. Yeah, I know that I sound like a broken record, but I really like a good challenge. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I really enjoy a good challenge, so yeah, sue me. Now, for this particular boss, what you gotta do is you gotta defend Neptulon from all the ads that are gonna be spawning. And this is actually pretty straightforward for the first phase of the fight. Now, the second phase is actually where things get tricky, and I will get to that in a few seconds. So for now, all you really gotta do is ads show up. Tank ads. Kill ads, win. That's everything there is to the first phase of this fight. Pretty simple stuff. If you want to do the achievement here as well, it's actually really easy. You just have to tell your DPSers, do not engage the big guy, which is this big guy over here. And just keep him alive until the third phase starts. It's really easy, trust me. I know that it seems like a pain in the ass, but this guy hits like freaking paper, so trust me, it doesn't really matter. But in here I wasn't really going for the achievement, so instead we just end up killing him and killing everything else, which is again pretty straightforward. Defend Neptulon, kill everything that comes near him, nuke everything down, be done with it fast, easy, simple. And now we're going to be coming up to the second phase, I believe. Now, in the second phase, what's going to happen is he's going... No, actually, we're not in the second phase yet. Damn, still one more vicious Mind Lasher. Just kill it already. And here I was actually panning the camera around to give you a good shot of Neptulon. Make sure you guys also enjoy the scenery. I'm going to be trying to pan the camera around more often, because I notice also that some people have said in the comments, oh, I can only see the boss's balls. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand that, because, yeah. So here is actually the second stage, and in the second stage what's going to happen is you're going to have these faceless sappers that are going to be nuking on the boss, and you're also going to be having these blight beasts that are going to show up. So what you got to do is, usually if you're with a DPS that you know he can make the skull mark, and you got to make sure that your DPSers respect the skull mark, because if your DPSers are attacking the Blight Beasts, they're doing it wrong. Because as you can clearly see here, these Blight Beasts are easily kitable. You just have to put some dots onto them every now and then. As a warrior, all you gotta do is rend, and then use Thundercrap. No, Thunderclap. Then use Thunderclap to spread the love of rend. Spread your love all over the world now. Yeah, spread the love of rend. I really love spreading rend around. You just rend one target, Thunderclap, boosh, everybody gets the love of rend. And as you can see there, I was actually taking a whole bunch of damage, so you want to make sure to pop a cooldown there if you get thrown in that situation. I'm actually doing it because I'm at this point where I've tanked so much with my paladin that I've lost a bit of practice with my warrior, because I should have been using heroic leap, intervene, charge, all that kinds of good stuff, which you can and should use on every single possible occasion. But yeah, again, you should kite the Blight Beasts. Be careful not to end up in black goo like I did here, but then again, the phase was switching, so I was just getting ready to nuke them down. As you can see here, phase switches onto phase 3, you nuke those guys down, and then you gotta look at these walls, these glasses, and try to figure out where the boss is, which is always a pain in the ass for me, because for some reason, there's nothing there, but I can attack it. Yeah, this encounter is a bit bugged. I'm actually trying to shift the camera around so that you can have a good look at the boss. And there he is. But if I shift the camera slightly lower, he will disappear like magic. Now here I usually pop all my cooldowns. Why? Because I will get shield wall, 20% less damage, last stand, rage regeneration, all that good stuff, and just nuke away at the boss, because usually the healers will always have a hard time keeping up here. If you're a paladin tanker, here is where you should pop your Holy Radiance. Or, as my guild likes to say it, Holy Radianus. Yeah, I know. Maybe they don't like me all that much. In fact, they like to say, bask in Rurikan's Holy Radianus. Whatever that means. So I guess I'll see you on the next one right here on TGN World of Warcraft. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave me some feedback. Press like if you liked. Press, is it not like? Thumbs down? Whatever. If you didn't like it, so that we know if you like our content or not. It's very important that you give us feedback. And yeah, that's it. I'm out for now, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Right here, TGN World of Warcraft.